In solo leveling, after Jinwoo completes the final test, the architect points at him and cryptically declares, "The answers are within you." Perplexed, Jin questions what this means, but before he receives an answer, a system notification appears, prompting him to accept or decline. The architect then explains that it will grant Jin a choice, retrieving stored data from his memory. After a brief moment of hesitation, Jin chooses to accept. Instantly, a blinding light engulfs him, forcing his vision to go white. When Jinwoo regains awareness, he finds himself suspended in midair, floating above a vast army of monsters. The sight bewilders him. As he observes the battlefield below, the creatures abruptly turn their attention to the sky. Curious, Jin follows their gaze, only to be stunned by the sight of colossal gates stretching across the heavens. At that moment, he realizes he is no longer on Earth. Examining the monsters more closely, Jin notices that many resemble the ones he has encountered inside the gates. A chilling thought crosses his mind. If all of these creatures were to emerge from a single gate simultaneously, humanity would be utterly doomed. However, despite their monstrous appearance, their adversaries were not humans. As the gates shattered open, Jinwoo saw their true opponents, angels. A full-scale war was unfolding before him. The monsters banded together, pooling their strength in an attempt to fight off the Silver Soldiers. The battlefield was a cacophony of chaos, the deafening sounds of war echoing across the landscape. Triumphant shouts quickly dissolved into agonized screams as the ground became drenched in blood. The Silver Soldiers possessed overwhelming might, and before long, the monsters teetered on the brink of complete annihilation. Just when defeat seemed inevitable, the tide began to shift. The once unrelenting Silver Soldiers started to falter, their movements slowing. Then, a horse stepped forward, carrying a warrior exuding an ominous presence. Jinwoo's eyes widened in recognition. He could sense the Monarch's territory ability. Moments later, he witnessed something even more shocking: shadow extraction. There was no doubt about it. The formidable figure on horseback was none other than the Shadow Monarch. For the monsters, death was not the end. Their spilled blood darkened, morphing into a sinister new power. Jinwoo was left speechless at the sheer scale of summoned creatures before him. Compared to this grand army, his own shadow forces felt insignificant. The fallen monsters clawed their way back from the abyss, charging once more toward the Silver Soldiers. The battlefield became a whirlwind of silver and black, the war intensifying with every passing second. Agonized cries and the clash of steel filled the air as a banner was raised. What had initially appeared to be a one-sided slaughter had now transformed into a full-scale battle, all because of one individual. The Shadow Monarch cut through the Silver Soldiers with ruthless precision, his presence alone shifting the course of the war. Then, in an instant, he surged forward and unleashed Commander's authority, telekinetic claws ripping through the angels. Jinwoo was stunned. The Shadow Monarch has the same telekinetic powers as me? The realization sent a shiver down his spine. The Shadow Soldiers continued their relentless assault, caught in a never-ending cycle of destruction and resurrection, eventually overwhelming their adversaries. Wherever the Shadow Monarch went, devastation followed in his wake. A monitoring division and several elite members of the Hunters Guild arrive at the double dungeon, immediately unsettled by the immense magic energy radiating from within. Cha Hai-in senses that the aura doesn't belong to Jinwoo, making her even more eager to confirm whether the rumors about the dungeon are true. Meanwhile, Woo Jin-chul recalls Jinwoo mentioning that he wasn't the one who cleared the double dungeon previously, which makes him question why he would return now. As the hunters cautiously push open the doors, they are stunned by the eerie sight before them. Jin-chul examines the chamber, noting that the legendary statues had indeed been here all along. Just then, a chilling voice echoes through the space. The architect speaks, questioning why humans have entered his domain uninvited. He dismisses their arrival as yet another outside interference. The hunters are momentarily frozen. It's not just that the monster is speaking their language, it's the sheer intelligence and authority in its voice that unsettles them. The architect, however, cuts through their hesitation, instructing them to remain silent so they don't disturb the king's slumber. His cryptic words send a wave of confusion through the group. When they realize he is referring to Sung Jinwoo, the hunters exchange uncertain glances, struggling to grasp his meaning. But before they can make sense of it, chaos erupts. Without warning, the architect refers to them as strong humans who will serve as excellent sacrifices for the king. Cha Hai-in barely has a moment to react before the statues spring into action, ready to tear the intruders apart. Meanwhile, in another realm, the demon clans march forward, banners raised high as they prepare for an all-out war against the Shadow Monarch. Among them, a towering wolf and an army of low-level demons advance, setting the stage for a fierce battle. But before that confrontation unfolds, the scene shifts back to the double dungeon, where the hunters are desperately fighting for survival. Inside the dungeon, Choi Jong-in orders the healers to pool their strength and move the injured to the rear. The oppressive presence of the false god looms as the statue knights close in. Watching the chaos unfold, the architect smirks and makes an offer. If they manage to destroy his puppets, he'll allow them to witness the king's rebirth. That is, if any of them are still alive by then. A desperate shout rings out, warning the hunters to dodge. In an instant, the false god unleashes a devastating laser attack, wiping out everything in its path, going full Homelander on the battlefield. However, one of the strongest hunters evades the assault and retaliates with a massive fireball, slamming it straight into the statue's face. Seizing the opening, he commands the others to focus on eliminating the statue knights, while the false god remains preoccupied. Jin Chul lunges at a statue, his fist charged with energy as he delivers a powerful punch. But to his shock, the attack has no effect whatsoever. Realizing the statues are far more durable than anticipated, he swiftly retreats as Choi Jong-in casts another fireball, temporarily blinding one of the statues. He then warns everyone to stay vigilant. The statues possess an unnatural level of physical resistance. As the smoke begins to clear, the Guildmaster's unease deepens. If their attacks are useless, could the statues have magical resistance as well? At that moment, Ki-hoon shouts that his taunt ability isn't working, and Cha confirms that her psychokinesis is also ineffective. A creeping sense of dread takes hold. If their abilities aren't working, what chance do they have? With no other options left, Choi Jong-in shifts his focus to the only possible solution: waking Jinwoo. He launches a fireball toward him, hoping the impact will be enough to stir him from his slumber. But just before the attack can connect, Choi's eyes widen in alarm as the architect intercepts it with ease. In a blink, the architect pivots and moves to strike Choi in retaliation. Before the attack can land, members of the surveillance team rush forward, intercepting the architect and forcing him back. Seizing the moment, Jin Chul shouts to Cha Hai-in that they will hold off the architect. Her sole mission now is to wake Jinwoo. Determination flashes in her eyes as she charges forward. Sung Jinwoo finds himself witnessing an otherworldly battlefield. In this strange realm, resurrected shadow creatures wage war against the demon clan. Observing the relentless cycle of destruction and regeneration among his shadow soldiers, Jinwoo realizes that even with his current power, the sheer intensity of the magic would have been fatal for him. The demon clan and the beasts emerging from the twin gates massacre the shadow soldiers without hesitation. Yet, as Jinwoo watches the carnage unfold, he begins to question the nature of this conflict. If this is truly a war between the monsters and the silver soldiers, then why are the demons attacking the shadows so mercilessly? He starts to suspect that the shadow army was never actually on the monsters' side. Could this be some form of internal strife? All across the battlefield, demons lie dead, casualties of the brutal war. Amid the destruction, the Shadow Monarch strides toward the weakened leader of the demon clan. With a cold, measured tone, he states that the fighting could have ended today and demands to know why the leader betrayed him. The demon, unfazed, scoffs at the notion, declaring that he had the chance to kill the monarch. The Shadow Monarch, unsatisfied, presses the question again. But instead of offering an explanation, the demon merely chuckles and mutters something cryptic in foreign language. Lifting the defeated army leader, the Shadow Monarch listens as he continues to repeat the strange words. Without hesitation, he tightens his grip and crushes the demon's throat, ending his life. Yet, just as the last breath escapes his enemy, the monarch suddenly hesitates. A strange sense of familiarity washes over him as he stares into the lifeless eyes before him. A realization begins to form in his mind, and with a sudden movement he removes his helmet. Then, the truth is revealed. The king of demons, Baron. Why is he here? The monarch stares at his hands in disbelief, and in that instant the illusion shatters. He is not merely the shadow monarch, he is Sung Jinwoo himself. Shock grips him as he wonders how he failed to notice it before. Suddenly, he feels an odd sensation in his chest. Looking down, his armor crumbles as he places a hand over his heart. Beneath the shattered plating, a second purple heart pulsates with an eerie glow. Sensing something, Jinwoo turns around, his instincts on high alert. Floating above him, the silver soldiers watch in eerie silence. With that, the recalled data concludes.